All right, guys, 6 income producing properties hit the South Florida market today. Let's check out which ones can make you money and which ones lose you money. Let's see. All right, well, let's start off really quick. Price this stuff by price per square foot. Oh, by the way, really quick, just right, like we are analyzing this using a 6.36% interest rate. That's what the Federal Reserve said was the average for 30-year fixed rate mortgages over the last 7 days. In other words, it's a lot of crap to say that that's basically what the interest rates are right now, okay, on average in the United States. So with that being said, I was talking to a client of mine today, and I was telling him, like interest rates are high, but remember, when interest rates are high, are there more or less sellers, or sorry, more or less buyers, right? There are less buyers. There are less buyers out there, and somebody who needs to sell, right? And there's a lot of people that need to sell right now. They'll just take the highest offer possible. So if you're the only offer there, they'll take it, which means that it's the best time to negotiate a good deal. And what's the best deal for you? The best deal would be one where you have a low interest rate and a low price, right? But you can't have low interest rates and low prices, or can you? You can, but the way that it's done is you got to get the low price first and then later on secure the low interest rate. Why? Because trying to get a low price when interest rates are low, right? It's like saying like, hey, there's not going to be a line out the door when you're giving things away, right? Or the prices are really low. They're not, it's just not that way, right? When interest rates are really low, there's a line out the door for the houses. If you remember right after COVID, with all the stimulus stuff, all the stimmies, all the interest rates were basically at zero. The Fed was giving out money, right? There were lines out the door to buy houses because it was easy to get all these loans, right? So prices skyrocketed. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to not compete with anybody. And so if you have the money and you're able to get a loan with these high interest rates and you're able to afford one of these houses that we see that could cash flow, this is the time to buy. The time to buy is when interest rates are high. And then later on you refinance. And guess what, guys? If interest rates never come down and they only go up, then you'll still look like a freaking genius because then you bought it when interest rates were at their lowest point, right? So anyway, I say all that to say that, it's a good time to buy. It's a good time to, better yet, let me put it this way. It's a good time to negotiate the price down with sellers. Nobody can argue with that point. There's no better time to negotiate the price down with sellers than when interest rates are high. Okay, so with that being said, now let's take a look at the properties. Okay, so first things first, we have this $565 per square foot duplex in Miami. But before we do anything, guys, remember, always be taking notes, always be writing down the properties that you gotta revisit later. And because with these notes, you're gonna also negotiate the prices with the Mr. Sellers, right? Oh man, all right. And so give me 1 second, guys. I will be right back. Gesundheit. All right, cool. So we're gonna look at so price, one column, type, is it a duplex, a triplex, type, location, as is rents, as is returns, right? Best possible rents, right? Is it in distress? Realistic price drop. And we're going to look at the best possible returns. And just like that, guys, that's how I analyze properties quickly, just to know which ones I'm going to keep following up on. All right, so this one is a 1.35 million, 3.3. right? $1.33 million duplex in Miami-Dade. All right, let's put this up on the board here so you guys can see and follow along. All right. By the way, let me just do one quick thing. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so 1.325 million, and they're paying $11,776 a year in taxes. Okay, square feet, 2,343 square feet. All right, and how much are they actually paying or collecting in rent? $6,700. You can see it right here, flood zone X, which is the best kind of flood zone you could be in. But at $6,700, guys, this is not even going to be half of the 1% rule, right? This property is already not looking very good, okay? But let's look at the pictures. Let's see what the actual property looks like. And it's a pretty little duplex, but this looks very, very type like, it almost looks photoshopped. And a lot of these pictures are photoshopped. Or virtually staged at least. But it's a pretty property. And it's not terribly located either. Okay. Well, let's look at the guts of this deal, see what else we could figure out. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Okay, they're saying that for the 4-bedroom, 4-bath, they're collecting $4,200 in rent. And that for the 2-bedroom, 1-bath, they're collecting $2,500. So that's a total of $6,700. Let's rent check this and make sure that that's correct. So 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Miami-Dade, the average is $2,300. They said they're getting $2,500. You know, that checks, that registers. Now, 3.2 rents for about $3,000. A 4.4, that has a lot more utility. So is it possible that they could actually rent it out for $4,200? I also think so. All right. Unfortunately, the return on investment here that this property could give you with this little rent and such a high price, even if they're getting $6,700, the returns here are going to be 6.1%. You're better off just investing in the S&P 500. Right now, what are the best possible rents? I think that these are the best possible rents. Right, $6,700. I don't see this guy being in some sort of distress where, you know, he needs to get rid of the property ASAP, but let's double check the folio number. And he's not. He doesn't need to get rid of the property ASAP, at least not from what the folio number tells us. So no distress. Now the question is it a realistic price, right? I don't think so. I think that we could easily take 10% off this price, and that would be $130,000. So let's say you bring this down to 120. Okay, 1.2 million. All right. What's the best return there? And that's dropping, right? That's dropping $125,000. So, yeah, guys, that's the best possible returns here are going to be 6.9%. Let's go ahead. Let's discard this property because this property is definitely not worth it. Okay. What's next? All right, guys. This $850,000 duplex in Miami-Dade. Let's see, $850. They're charging $9,774 a year in taxes. Square feet, 2,040 square feet. Okay, and what are they collecting in rent? $4,200. Okay. Flood zone X, which is the best kind of flood zone that you could have. And let's take a look at the pictures here. Nice terrazzo flooring. The property looks pretty nice. And these old school pictures, nothing's really changed. You could tell from these grainy pictures to the property. So I would say this is a mid kind of property. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Give me one quick second, guys. Let me just pause this for 1 sec. Sorry about that, guys. All right, cool. So, $850,000. Taxes are 9,770, and the square feet area is 2,040 square feet. Total rent is $4,200. All right, let's look at the pictures here. We saw the pictures already. So there's a mid kind of property. Let's not keep analyzing it too much. Let's keep going. So they say that the 3-2 is getting $2,100. And they say that the 2-1 is getting also $2,100. That doesn't make sense. How are you going to get the same amount of money for the 3-2 than you get for the 2-1? So let's analyze this a little bit further. Miami-Dade, a 2-1 could get you $2,300. And they said this is month to month. So this might be completely underpriced here. Okay, guys, this might be completely underpriced. Or maybe the neighborhood just doesn't call for as much. Okay, but it does look like it's underpriced. It looks like it's a little bit mismanaged. Look, when you rent the 3-2 out for the same amount of money that you rent out the 2-1, there's something going on. So if you could actually rent this stuff out, right? Because right now it's the best return is a 5.5. We just saw that. Okay, and that's collecting 4,200. What's now? I don't think that this is going to matter a whole lot, but a 3-2 in Miami-Dade should be able to get at least $3,000. So you put $3,000 here, and then the 2-1 could get you 2,300, which is not a whole lot more, but you know, it is what it is. If the property could actually now get you 5,300, it doesn't change the needle a whole lot, doesn't move the needle on the 1% rule a whole lot, but it at least helps you cover the mortgage. So this property would pay at least the mortgage, but none of the expenses. All right. And the best return that this property can get you at that point is going to be a 7.7. But the question is, how much could you reduce the price? Well, I think you could definitely reduce the price here about 10%. So that would be at least $80,000, and that would bring your price down to $780. And if you can negotiate those $80,000 down, the best return this property is going to give you is an 8.6. And even at that, that's not worth it. I mean, you're going to go through all that trouble of, you know, increasing the rents, negotiating almost $100,000 off the price, and then on top of that, you're not going to make returns as good as the S&P. Doesn't make sense. Let's discard it. Okay, next up, it's a $950,000 fourplex in Miami-Dade. The as is rents, they're not telling us how much it's getting in rents, but the taxes are almost $11,000. Let's put that in the calculator, 950. It's a fourplex. The taxes are 10,668 square feet, 2,409. All right. And the rents are, they don't tell us. So let's look at the pictures of the property. Let's look at the quality, and then we can determine how much we think we could get for rents. Terrazzo flooring, you know, it's coming back, I feel. It's nice terrazzo flooring. So I don't totally hate it, but it is very much of a mid kind of property, nothing crazy. All right, let's look at the actual makeup of the units here. Okay, they don't tell us. Located in Red Hot, La Pata. 2 units are 2 bedroom, and 1 unit is a 1 bedroom and 1 studio. Okay, so it's a triplex. I thought that it said that it was 2 units are 2 bedrooms. Okay, 1 is a 1 bedroom and 1 is a studio. Okay. So two 2-1s maybe. So let's assume it's 2 1s. Okay. In Miami-Dade, a 2-1 could be $2,300. So let's put 2,300 here. Let's put 2,300 there. Then a 1 bedroom, right? 1,600. And then a studio. The studio is going to get you around 1,200. Okay, that's $7,400. It's not terrible. On the 1% rule, it's almost a 0.8, almost a 1%. All right. The property is very mid, and it's in Alapata, which is they're gentrifying the community, so it's growing, but like it hasn't like completely finished growing. It's just starting to, so potential, but it's not there yet. All right, I think that you could definitely negotiate at least 5% off this purchase price. He's not too far off. I think that this property could cash flow, right, from day one if you put a DSCR loan in place, and yeah, that's the case. All right, it's going to be able to cash flow on day one. Now, I think that again, you could probably reduce the price here about $50,000, or probably some $50,000, and so you put it at $900,000, right? then this property makes a whole lot more sense. Because right now, this property, I'm estimating that they're getting $7,400 a month in rent, which means that the return here on investment by itself is going to be at 12.3%, right? Now, if you could reduce the price by 50K, right, and you have the same amount of rent here, then the returns get a whole lot better, right? Whoops. The returns go up to 13.6. Now, let's see if by any chance this guy would, let's look at the folio number, see if he's in any sort of distress. That would help us out. And it doesn't look like he is. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead, discard this one, and let's keep looking. This one's a $775,000, basically. $1,000 duplex in Miami-Dade. And they don't tell us how much they're collecting in rents either, but they tell us it's flood zone X. So let's put it up here on the calculator. 774,900. Okay, taxes, $2,797 a year in taxes. Square feet, 2,030 square feet. Rents, they don't tell us what the rents are. So let's dive in. Let's look at the pictures first. So this is a brand new duplex. I think we might have seen this one yesterday. If not, they're building a lot of these. They're just finishing them now, maybe. And so these people might be in an urge to sell. Let's look at the taxes. Yeah, they paid the taxes. So, but still, yeah, see, $15,000 lender credit for occupant buyers. Okay, so it's 232s and Liberty City. So another like gentrifying kind of area here in Miami-Dade. Very interesting. Go check it out. But it's 232s. I think that $3,000, even though it's a brand new product, because it's in a growing area, it's not hasn't finished growing. Then maybe the rent that you're going to be able to get here is $6,000. Okay, so at that point, does this make a lot of sense? Is the question. Well, it makes it look pretty freaking good. I'm not going to lie. The only thing here is this tax. The tax will definitely go up. This tax is based on just an empty lot. Now, with this whole house finished being built, you could expect these taxes to probably go up to about $10,000 minimum. Okay. It does change it a whole lot. You can see here on the DSCR, it went from being 139% to 122%. But still, I think that this property has potential. Let's fill this in. I think that rents could be $6,000, and that would mean that your returns here could be 11.4%. All right. Now, the question is, how much do we think that we could take off? They're saying that they're going to be able to take $15,000 off. Now, whether you're an owner occupant or not, this is a credit that's being given by the seller. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't care. He just cares about how much the check is being written and how much money is going to hit his bank account. So I think that if you were to just offer cash, right, the best discount that you probably get on this property, I would say is at least a 5%, right? And 5% of $774,000 would be somewhere around like $35,000. So I would bring this down to $740,000, okay? I think that he would be willing, if you gave him an offer for $740,000, he would take it today. I'm pretty damn sure about that. So that would be taken off. What did I say again? Whoops. Yeah, $35,000, right? 35 down. Same rent, 6,000. And so that would be 740. And that's 12.4% what this property goes up to. It's not a slam dunk, it's a C. But I mean, if you want something that's brand new that you don't have to worry about like a lot of headaches with maintenance, this could be an option. Okay, so not bad, not bad. Let's discard this one. Let's see what we have in store here as we finish these last two. This one's going to be $749. That's what they want for it. Okay, $749. It's a duplex. It's in Broward County in Hollywood. They tell us how much they're getting in rents. They don't. All right, but it's a duplex. It's a big duplex. They're paying a lot of money in taxes. $19,160 a year in taxes. Okay, interest rate is 6.36. Square feet, 2,975 square feet. Rents, guys. All right, we don't see much here for rents. Flood zone X. So it's as good as it gets. Let's look at this property here. So it needs some work, guys. It needs some work. It's not all sunshines and rainbows here. Yeah. But that doesn't come with the property. That's the surroundings of it. All right. It's down here, downtown. But I mean, it's not a terrible area to be. It's just a huge duplex, man. You could probably turn this into a fourplex. All right. You definitely have the ability, I think, to do that here. And that's the only thing that would, I think, justify these high taxes. Okay. So large duplex opportunity in the heart of East Hollywood. Yep. Okay. They don't even tell us. They don't even bother to tell us what the unit mix is here. Nice. Good job, man. Whoever the real estate agent here is, it's not very smart. 2 units, 6 bedroom, 4 baths. So right now it's a 3-2. Right now it's a 3-2. Okay. They're not any kind of problem here. And I mean, units that big and it's a 3-2, you're definitely going to be able to get maybe $3,500, maybe even $4,000 here. Okay. But definitely, I think $3,500 for 3-2s that big. And that makes this property pretty freaking attractive from the get-go, guys, right? What kills it is the taxes. Let's make sure that this guy put in the taxes correctly. Yeah. Wow, those taxes are just astronomical. Wow. Okay. Crazy. All right, guys. So the taxes are what they are. 11.4% is the best that this property is going to be able to do right now, much like the last property that we saw. All right. But I think that there's an opportunity where you could turn this into maybe like 4-2-1s, right? And if you could actually do that, guys, if you could turn this into 4-2-1s, then they would be $2,300, $2,300, $2,300, and $2,300. And all of a sudden, this property would be an amazing steal, right? So look into it, guys. It might be worth it to, definitely check this property out a little bit more. And that's not it, right? Because I think that that's not hard to do, right? And you can still probably negotiate a bit off the price. You could probably negotiate another, $30,000 off this and end up at $719,000. And if you do that, if you negotiate that price off, then the best possible return this property might be able to give you is a 50.2% return, even if you turn this into a duplex, right? I don't think that the taxes are going to get that much higher. So with that being said, this is probably one of the best properties we've seen all week. Let's go on and look at the next one, and maybe it's even sweeter. Okay, we come up to our last property here. All right, it's in Lauderhill, so it's Broward County. Let's go here. Very accessible price, $595,000. All right, in taxes, you're paying $11,973 a year in taxes. Square feet, 2,532 square feet. Now the rents, they don't tell us how much you're getting, and flood zone is A, H, and X, which isn't the best. You're going to pay a premium there, and there's only one picture, so this realtor is really not helping us. All right, but he says that there's a 4-2, a 2-1, and a studio. Handyman special triplex in Lauderhill. Now it has a space for it. If this is correct, let's make sure that this is a triplex and not something weird. Well, it's definitely zone multifamily, and it's actually a duplex, all right, with 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. So it should be, handyman special. It's a code word for like we did illegal, modifications. But let's say you could actually get it into a 4-2, a 2-1 in a studio, right? A 4-2, let's see what the return could be. A 4-2 in Broward, all right? Depends again on the type of quality, but I'm not going to say that it's a whole lot of money. I'm going to say an extra bedroom. I'm going to give this guy $3,200 because it's in Lauderhill. All right, the 2-1, let's give him a $1,900. Again, we don't know the quality, so I'd rather shoot down than up. And then a studio, right? I'll give them like $1,300. And at that point, I mean, that's even if we're kind of being a little conservative here, that makes it a 1% property, right? $595,000 duplex turned triplex, right? Broward County might be able to get you $6,400 a month. And if that's the case, then it's definitely better than 1% property, as a matter of fact. And the returns could be as good as 24.3%. Okay. Now, I think that that's probably the best rents, but check it out for yourself. I'm not going to put rents higher than that because we don't have no way of knowing. We have no pictures, and that's kind of the penalty that this realtor takes for not, putting up a good listing, to be honest. Yeah. So there's no way to know that. He actually does that, in all fairness. He probably does this so that you have the curiosity. It looks pretty good that you go out there, you drive, and you look at the property. So I don't blame him either. But the realistic price drop, man, honestly, like, it depends on the property. Again, we have no pictures. It doesn't look like he's in some sort of crazy distress. But let's say you take 5% off this price, and you end up like at, let's say, $20,000 off, right? And if you take $20,000 off and you end up at 75 here, right? All of a sudden your returns are 27.8%. And what I would tell this guy is like, hey, listen, like, this triplex is not a real triplex. You actually have, a duplex. Like, this is what the county has. I could get in trouble if I buy it. I want to sell it. I'm not going to be able to. Like, this is a cash only offer. Yada yada yada. Right, and try to like show him what the rents would actually be with what the property is supposed to be, because they're going to be substantially lower than this, and then go from there, right? Like, negotiate from that point of view. So that's what I would do, guys. Now, let me know if you guys have any questions. Some pretty freaking awesome properties today. Yeah, the second to last one was amazing. So, but remember, do your due diligence. Make sure that the rents are accurate to the 10th of a mile with other rented comps. All right, but that's all for today. Have a nice weekend. Well, actually, I'll see you tomorrow. See ya.